Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to another card making video. So today we're looking again at the Creative Stampin' issue 92, and I showed you in the last video that they had these 4 digital stamps that you could download from their website. These are by Paper Nest Dolls and these are really cute. These are 4 girls that are kind of spring themed, Easter themed, so perfect for any cards that you want to make over the next few months. So you can see that I've printed one of the images out here just onto some white cardstock, but I want to talk you through, I have shown this in a few other videos looking at digital stamps, but I want to show you how you can download these and then what I did to get this to the perfect size to fit my card. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to download all of these digital elements and all the extra bits you get advertised in the magazine. So we're going to go to the website called papercraftingmagazine.com, and this is where you'll find all the extra elements for magazines like Die Cutting Essentials, Creative Stampin', and then any of the other magazines like Papercraft Essentials. So you can either find articles on that very first page that you come to. Alternatively, you can click on the download button that's along the top of the sort of top menu of the website. And as you can see then, there's lots of different downloads for the different magazines. Again, this is all stuff that's going to be advertised within those magazines themselves. So what we're going to do is go back to the home page, and you can see these digital stamps here are the ones that we want to download. Now I have found an issue actually on the magazine itself that once you have logged in, there isn't actually a link for you to be able to download these digital images. And I have noticed that someone has left a comment advising that they can't find a link to download these either. But there is another place where you can find these exact images, but also other images as well. So if you go to the Simply Cards and Papercraft website, you'll actually find them within their catalogue as well. So we have looked at this website before. So if you go into downloads, you can either go into all downloads, which is the screen that I'm in now. And as you can see, you've got, again, all of the free downloads that are advertised within Simply Cards and Papercraft. You can also then filter that down further and just go into digital stamps, which again, you can see here. Any of the digital stamps that they've advertised in the magazine, you'll find it here listed issue by issue. So I want to find a specific set of these stamps. So I'm going to type into the search bar Paper Nest. So this is a partial description. You can put in Paper Nest Dolls as well, and you'll get the same results. And you can see here that back in issue, I think it was 188, they had these digital stamps. But then you can see a back catalogue of digital stamps of these really cute little girl, little boy characters, lots of different scenarios that you can download for free. So these are the ones that I have downloaded. This is the image that I have printed and coloured for today's card. And all you need to do is simply sign in or register. Once you've signed in or registered, there will be a button for you to download these images onto your PC. If you've already downloaded them and want to view them again, it will take you into your account to show you the items that you've already downloaded. So as you can see, I've downloaded quite a few, so I don't want to have to go through all of them. So I'm just going to find another set of digital stamps by Paper Nested Dolls, and I'm going to download these. So once you click that download button, it's going to pop up in the bottom left-hand corner for you to open it as a file. To be able to look at these images and change them and print them, you need to extract all the data. And you can see that I've done that here. And then you've got the 4 digital stamps. So these are Disney Princess themed stamps. So you can see that they have been downloaded here. When I print my digital stamp, I want to create a panel. I don't want to have to fussy cut my girl down. So to make sure that I can cut this to the exact size that I want, I'm going to take my image and I'm going to pop it into something like Microsoft Word or Publisher. I'm actually using OpenOffice, which is a free program that works pretty much exactly the same. And the way I'm going to do this to make my life a little bit easier is I'm going to draw a text box or just a square or rectangle shape, and I'm going to change the size of that. I'm then going to import my image and I'm going to make sure that it's sat nicely inside that box, exactly where I want it to go. Once then I've printed it, it's going to show me that black border, and then I can go on and trim this down with my guillotine once I've printed it, and it means that I'm going to have a panel to the exact size I want. So you can see that I've drawn a box. I changed this just to a random size, so this is 15 by 10 centimeters. And now I've imported in my digital stamp. So the one thing you want to be aware of is when you come to resize it, because I want it to fit in that box, but you want to make sure that you are keeping it the same ratio. So you don't want it to be too tall and thin, you don't want it to be short and fat. So you want to make sure that this is perfect. So you could still mess around like I'm doing here, and you can try and get it to look exactly how you want to do it, and of course that is perfectly fine. But one of the easiest ways of then doing this is if you hold the Shift key, as you then bring the mouse in and out, it will keep that aspect ratio exactly the same. So it doesn't matter how small you make this image, it means then that it's going to stay the same proportions. So I hope that made sense, and I hope that that turns into a nice little trick for you if you do use digital stamps. If I didn't explain that in a good enough way, or you want me to go into a little bit more detail, please leave me a comment down below and I can be sure to create a video. So you can see that I've got my printout here of the digital stamp, and very faintly you can see then my text box and my border around my image. This means then that I can cut this down. I'm just going to trim just inside those lines, and it means then that I've fitted my image into that size to create my card panel, and it also means then I managed to get my image right in the centre of it. So now I have my card panel ready to go. All I need to do is colour it in, and it's going to fit the exact size I want for my card. So like I said, if you want any more details, if you want me to go a little bit more in depth with this, then please, like I said, leave me a comment down below. But now we can get started colouring in our digital stamp for our card today. So for the design of this card, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, really, because I knew that colouring in with the alcohol markers was going to take me a little while, and I didn't want to have sort of too much going on. I really love the sample cards that they have in the magazine, and really all of the cards that are designed for these paper nestles. I think they're really, really great. They've got lots of different layers on it, lots of lovely elements, but the main sort of focus is, of course, then these digital stamps. So what I wanted to do was kind of keep in theme with that, really. So I'm going to put all of my focus into my alcohol colouring. There's not going to be a lot else going on. There will be a couple of mattes and layers. And I didn't actually end up popping a sentiment onto this card either, only because I couldn't really decide what sentiment I wanted. So I thought that I would just leave it without one. Then when I come to use the card, I can find the perfect sentiment for the occasion. So I'm using a combination of my TriBlend markers and the few Copic markers that I do have. So any excuse that I get, I do try to use. I've got a set of red, a set of green, and a set of orange. So in terms of the colouring, it's going to be kind of basic, but I want it to be as good as possible. I wanted to keep a lot of it slightly more muted, so they've got some chickens in this design, so I use the golden, more golden colour rather than kind of a bright yellow colour. Wanted it to be just a little bit more realistic. So I'm using all three of the shades of pen, so I'm not really too worried about shadows and things like that. But of course then where there are going to be natural shadows, where the chick is actually in the hands, of course I made those areas darkest. So when it came to the hair, I wanted to have a little bit of texture in there. So instead of colouring kind of all over, I tried to colour in lines, and I followed then the design of the hair itself. So where it flicked out, I made sure that I coloured that way, just to give it a little bit more of a realistic look. And then I was able to kind of make it look like there was lots of different colours making up a hair colour, rather than just putting, of course, the shadows, the darkest colour where the shadows would be. For her dress and her hair accessories, I decided to stay within the pinks and purples. I had already picked out a patterned paper that I wanted to use to matte and layer this onto, and I thought that would then go perfect with it, and of course then those chicks would stand out really nicely. The one thing I will mention is I did start by colouring in her skin to begin with, and I do this because it ends up, the fair skin colour that I use, it ends up just going a little bit funny, and it takes a little while just to dry back into the card, and then I like to give it the time to dry back before I actually sort of finish the project, rather than doing that last. I wanted to make sure that I got enough coverage. It goes sort of a dark, almost grey kind of colour, but again, I think that's just where the alcohol is actually sinking into the cardstock, so I do like to try and do that first. Just to add a little bit more detail, I did go in with a jelly roll pen. So this is a white pen, and I just added some highlight lines all over the image. So on the chicks, on their little nose, I did it across her hair, her dress as well. Again, it just sort of gives it a little fun kind of cartoon finish to it. So you can see that I'm just going around finding all of the highlight points. So I have within the dress itself, because it's almost like a patchwork dress, I have tried to, again, do the highlights and the shadows, and then I'm just highlighting where I've coloured in that lightest colour with then this white gel pen. And I'm using a combination of kind of lines and dots. I'm following the design, so I'm going the same way, just trying to make sure that I'm making it look as realistic as possible. I do really love how this has come out. I love sitting down and using my alcohol markers to colour in. I love colouring in things like this where you can be a little bit more creative because they are cartoon-like. They don't have to be realistic. If you wanted to do her with different coloured skin, if you wanted completely different coloured hair, it would work just as well. If you wanted to have green chickens, that would work perfectly. So it just gives you the freedom just to kind of use your colours a lot more. So now that I've finished the colouring that, you can see that I've not coloured in the sky. I have just done a bit of grass at the bottom, and that was really what I wanted. I didn't want to have sort of too much going on in the background. You can see here that I've picked some pink gingham, so this is why I decided to go with the pinks and purples for her dress, because I thought that it would fit in really nicely with this patterned paper. So originally what I wanted to do was to have a thicker border so you could still see this gingham. But then I thought if I lined it up sort of straight with my image, I thought that would kind of hide some of the design a little bit. So I did decide to actually do it at an angle, and I actually stuck it to the centre of this piece of paper. I used my purple tape pen just to add some adhesive to my panel, and then like I said, I'm going to pop this right into the centre of my gingham cardstock, and I'm going to do this at kind of a diagonal. Again, like I said, I wanted you to be able to see that pattern really nicely. So you might think this is a little bit of a waste, but I will keep all of the offcuts, and this was just a piece of cardstock that I have a couple other sheets of as well. So I'm going to take my paper trimmer and I'm going to trim this down. And like I've shown you in a previous video of card making hacks that I have, I used then the clear guard on the guillotine itself to create a border. Now I did struggle with this a little bit because my clear sort of finger protector that does move around is not kind of fixed in the same position that my smaller paper trimmer is. But once you've got one side cut, it makes it a little bit easier to actually line it up. So this was the kind of border, the size that I really wanted to have. But then when I'd actually finished cutting it, I kind of felt like it was wonky. I don't know if it was because of the pattern and the fact that it was on a diagonal, or whether I had actually cut it wonky. So I ended up bringing out my Fisgard smaller paper trimmer. This is actually a photo, so I believe this is sort of 6x4 inch, and I ended up then using the guard on this one as my guide, which meant then that I had a much smaller border. And I was kind of okay with this. I felt like you couldn't necessarily see the pattern like I wanted you to be able to, but at the end of the day, I wanted it to be straight and I wanted it to look nice. So because I had a much smaller border, I decided then to add an extra matting layer. So this wasn't something I was originally planning to do, but I felt like my card was a little bit too empty. So I took then a piece of the Craft Perfect Bubblegum Pink. This is the weaved pink cardstock that I purchased previously. And I've cut this down to size just so then it'll give me a nice additional border, and it'll then fill up just a little bit of space on the card. So again, I used my purple tape pen just to adhere this down. Gives me a little bit extra wiggle room than what my double-sided tape does. And then I pop this down. And then we've got that really lovely piece of gingham cardstock that you can kind of see behind it. And then we've got that pink cardstock. And then we have a really nice white border. So this is what I originally wanted it to look like, just with that full gingham paper. But I actually really love how this has turned out. So once I've stuck down this panel onto my blank card base, this is going to be then my finished card. So the card size is 5 by 7 inch, so a really nice size card. And like I said at the beginning, I wasn't going to add a sentiment because I couldn't decide what I wanted to use, and I thought then it might be a little bit easier to add a sentiment when I come to give this card out. But I really love how this has turned out. I love, like I said, sitting down with my alcohol markers and doing a bit of colouring, and I think it's nice just to have that bit be kind of the main focus of the card. I really love these paper nest doll images. I think they're really cute, and they seem to have a really great variety for lots of different occasions, so you can have something to create really the perfect card. So that is it for this video. If you have enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.